It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in at Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Happy to be with you today. It's our Monday. It's a Vegas Monday.
Vegas Monday.
Which means it's Thursday. Alex White is here as well. Last man standing champion in college football last year. Vinny Magliulo. Best hair in the business. Been around 40-plus years here in the state.
A couple of last men and women standing.
Yeah,
yes.
you are one of the last men standing. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
I'm glad I'm still standing.
We are too. We're very happy you're still standing.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm more worried about you. Are you getting any sleep? There are a ton of games to handicap right now.
So it's overrated. Sleep's overrated.
Sleep's overrated?
We'll sleep in July.
Sports Equinox tomorrow. Sports Equinox on Monday, I should say. If you include college football, it's a Sports Equinox tomorrow with the World Series beginning. So
correct.
You have everything here, Vinny.
That's
legitimately everything you want.
Got
and also college basketball starts next week.
Yeah, college basketball. Have everything going all at one time. Great time of year. That's right. Hence Alex's comment about sleeping. I'm sleeping right now. Can't you tell?
Oh, I can tell. Vinny, let's go back to Monday real quick.
Okay.
Before we get to tonight's NFL game and some college games, and then this prop sheet I have in the National Basketball Association.
Yes.
That you have for tonight's two games. Milwaukee hosting Philadelphia and the Lakers hosting the Suns with no Bradley Beal and no Devin Booker tonight. Took us a hearty 2 games to get multiple superstars out right away in a primetime nationally televised game. But Monday, so Vinny, I just want to ask you this because this leads into what was the biggest matchup on paper going into this weekend. The Niners, they lose their second straight game. Minnesota gets them this time.
Mm-hmm.
A really good outing from Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
Good win for Minnesota, who's right back in the middle of the NFC playoff picture. All of a sudden, yet again, Niners with 2 straight losses. And the biggest loss, though, from this one, Brock Purdy's in concussion protocol. No one has played this season the same week they've gone into concussion protocol. That has not happened. So Purdy would be going against everything that's happened so far this year. Vinny, Bengals off a bye. Now 3.5-point dogs behind us. There's some 4 in the market. You guys opened, 6.5?
Yeah.
When you opened on
Sunday night.
Sight Unseen on Monday?
Well, let's remember, too, though, that's Sunday night. So part of this move now to 3.5, so part of it's the adjustment, though, after Monday night was a couple of points. So when you look at it, 6.5 on Sunday night when Chris Andrews, director here at South Point, releases the numbers. But then the adjustment down to about 5.5 after Monday night's game. Credit the Vikings. Hey, listen, the Vikings played a heck of a game, right? So
it's really hard not to root for Kirk Cousins and to like him. I mean, even just watching the interview after, you can tell he's just a good guy, nice guy, loves the game of football, and I'd like to see him have a good showing like that on primetime with all the noise he constantly hears.
Yeah, good team guy, and you could tell his teammates really like him as well. Good in the locker room. And, a couple of weeks ago, before they won a couple of games in a row, a couple of weeks ago, they were sellers, right? The trade deadline's coming up by Halloween, by Tuesday, and there was all kinds of rumors that he was going to a variety of teams, the Jets, the Patriots, and some other
Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, look. Listen, I mean, like you said at the top, Jeff, they're right back in the mix for at least a wild card.
Well, 7 teams have to make the playoffs in both conferences.
Yeah,
that means that at least one mediocre NFC team is getting there this year. So why not Minnesota with again back-to-back one-score wins? They play Green Bay this week. The Packers go in the wrong direction. Minnesota's actually been betting that game up to 1.5 now, Vinny. In a game, you guys open pick on that one, right?
On Sunday night, the Packers they opened as a 1.5-point favorite.
So it's a whole flippo.
So again, some money came in early. I think actually early on the Packers, and then the adjustment after Monday night to pick them, and now the Vikes are a 1-point favorite.
Jordan Love. Not looking great so far after a good start in week 1 and then a miracle comeback in week 3. 3 straight losses for the Packers heading into that one on Sunday against Minnesota. All right, let's get to tonight. Let's get there, Vinny. Buffalo hosting Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
Been a steady stream of Buffalo action so far, from 8 to 9.5. There is a rogue 10 in the market right now. Total bounced all over the place, as high as 44, back to 43. Not that long ago, a little under an hour ago.
Yeah, actually, gentleman came up and took the under 44 for 10 and under 43.5 for another 10. So, but as far as the side itself, Bills late 8.5, sitting at 9. I think there were some 9.5s out there in a few spots. But look, the Buccaneers having difficulty scoring points, particularly in the last couple of weeks. Defensively, Vita Vea is probably going to be a game time decision for them. So, and again, when you're struggling to score points and you're going up against the Bills team that was, what happened last week against the Patriots? I'm sure the Bills are going to come out very strong and a little angry tonight, Alex.
And that is a big drop off for them if they lose Vita in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is one of the best defensive tackles, and Buffalo will be able to run the ball up the middle without him there. So waiting to see what happens with that. But I am intrigued by this game. Tampa Bay's defense, very good. Waiting to see if we have a little regression, because they are allowing the 7th most yards per drive, but only 10th most points. So seeing if that kind of buys back. They're also very good in the red zone, the best team in the league right now. 22% of drives resulting in touchdowns, best in the league. And then the Bills' offense is very good in the red zone, second best in the league. So I'm interested to see how that plays out tonight.
Yep.
Right now, again, 9.5 Bucks, losers of 2 in a row. Kind of a trip back to planet Earth for Tampa after that 3-1 start. But look, right now for the Bucks, all 3 of their losses have come at home. They've all come against division leaders right now: Philadelphia, Detroit, and somehow the Atlanta Falcons. Who right now, I would say the Falcons actually. I was looking through some make-miss playoff odds at other shops. Falcons were as high as minus 260 to make the playoffs, which that price was not available even in the last few weeks. Falcons road favorites in Nashville this week to take on the Tennessee Titans coming up. That could be the dynamic duo of Levis and Willis. There, Vinny.
Two-headed monster for Tennessee. By the way, that game went as high as 3, right? So the Falcons a 1-point favorite on the opener, and now toggling back and forth between 2.5 and 3 here at South Point. So yeah, look, Falcons have gotten the job done, and look at the schedule, and again they've gotten it done. Particularly in the division, right? So they're in the driver's seat right now. Now we got obviously a long way to go, but the fact of the matter is, when you look at what's happened and how teams are playing, including they're finding ways to win games and winning close games. Remember we talked about teams that won and lost close games a year ago compared to this year, right? The Vikings, although they seem to have righted things in the last couple of games, the Giants. Well, the Falcons are following that script this year, right? Finding ways to win games, particularly late. And close games.
Just want to ask you about Buffalo real quick, because this is a team that, Vinny, you had near the top of your power ratings at the beginning of the year. Yeah. They are not that team, especially with all those injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Trey White, Matthew Milano. Last week, Oliver did not play in that loss to New England. Just how do you handle a team that, look, they're still a game out of first place. They're still a plus 80-point differential so far in the year. So that usually shows dominance. But with this Buffalo team, only one of those wins are by 1 score. They are 1-3 in the other 1-score games they have played, or 0-3 in the other 1-score games they have played so far.
Bills are still a top 6 power-rated team. I mean, the fact of the matter is you have to throw out a couple of anomalies, right? I look at, first of all, you start with the quarterback position, especially when he's home, and he's a completely different player when he's home. A much better player in terms of Josh Allen. So you can't discount them. They did make a move this week in terms of clearing some cap space. You have to believe that the Bills are going to be involved in the trade deadline between now and Tuesday, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And that said, the reality is they're still going to find ways, I think, to be relevant. And their schedule's getting more difficult. Don't get me wrong, but their power rating hasn't come down that much because their schedule's been good, right? I mean, outside of the Patriots, this is still a quality team. Again, you can't overreact to wins and losses. So at the end of the day, you've got the Chiefs that are ahead of them in the AFC power rating wise, the Ravens, but after that, still, I mean, you can't. The Bengals haven't shown enough consistency to surpass them. The Jaguars haven't either. So when it comes to power rating, the teams, particularly in the AFC, they're still they're number 3, and they're close to the Ravens right now.
Head of Miami still?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I still have my head of Miami. Miami hasn't. Who's Miami?
No,
beaten?
Miami.
That's a really strong team, and look what the Bills did to Miami.
So if I were just going through, and I'm curious what your thoughts on this too, Alex, where at this point, the Jaguars are the team that is sitting there that doesn't feel like they're respected enough. They're 5-2. They beat Buffalo in a neutral site game. Yeah, they were in London. Jacksonville is used to playing there, but you know what? Buffalo was a 5.5-point favorite in that game, and Jacksonville was the right side all the way through.
No question.
I'm just curious on this point where, they didn't play well against Kansas City, and they can't handle the Texans for whatever reason. But Jacksonville feels like that one team that's kind of getting left out of the discussion that is trending towards, if they're not already there to be deserving of the discussion, they're on their way to being there.
Not as difficult or as strong a division either.
Oh, of course.
So you have to. That has to. That comes into play as well. So that's a big part of it.
We kind of learned this week actually with Jacksonville. They played Pittsburgh, who has been amazing. That the Steelers are 4-2 with a negative 24-point differential and just finding a way late in games to get it done.
You can make a lot of cases for the Steelers one way or the other, right? Including they could be 5-1, right? Or folks
could be 0-6.
When you look at the loss to. You look at their wins and the loss to Houston, you say, how did that happen, right? So, or they could be, like you said, they could be, they could have 2 wins. They could have 1 win, so, but they're finding ways to credit Tomlin and his halftime adjustments. The Steelers find ways to win games, Alex, and that's why it comes into the handicap when you're looking at the Steelers.
Absolutely does. And going back to Buffalo, I'm right there with Vinny. Only the Chiefs and the Ravens, I have above Buffalo, but I actually have Buffalo and Miami tied at 6th right now. But to Vinny's point, I mean, even the game last week, they dug themselves in a hole. They gave up 10 points in the first quarter, and then they had an uphill battle. But they weren't shut out. They were never out of that game. They still put up 25 points, and that's the kind of team that this is, and I think that's why they remain so high in the power rating.
How much did you guys move Baltimore up, just individual numbers off of what they did last week?
Not last week, but if you look at Baltimore in the last couple of weeks, 3 games, it's gradual. So probably about 1.5 points in the last couple, maybe 2 points overall in the last 3 games.
I would argue Lamar Jackson.
Healthier, too.
I would argue that Lamar Jackson should be, at this very moment, is the MVP of the league. I'm not sure if that holds.
Ahead of Mahomes, you have him?
I do.
Okay.
And it's close. And look, if we're just picking quarterbacks, who's the better quarterback, Mahomes is in his own league compared to everyone else in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between Lamar at his best, now the last few weeks, we're starting to see, other than that, whatever happened to them in Pittsburgh at the end of the game, last 2 games, we're starting to see Lamar Jackson kind of regain that 2019 form.
Well, what happened to him at the end of the Colts game, too, right?
I
know it was a month ago.
I'm gonna tell you, that Colts, there are a few results at the end of the year that we're going to look at and be like, what happened? And it happens every single year.
Yeah, with multiple teams.
That Indy one's going to be one of those. Even though the Colts may very well end up going 7-10, that's going to be one that's like, wow, Minshew went on the road and beat Baltimore, who got the number 1 or number 2 seed in the AFC. That's a pretty ridiculous win when we look back in it.
I love that Lamar Jackson MVP right now. I completely agree, especially for what he is to that team. And when you listen to other coaches preparing for him, they say it is so hard because you can't even put anybody on your own team to simulate what he does on the field.
Difficult.
So
No, I mean, listen, I'm not saying he's not a MVP candidate, but I think in terms of the price,
It's still
I think
Mahomes.
Mahomes is still the favorite.
No, and that makes sense.
Which again, that's not a knock on Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is terrific, and he's having a good year, and I think they're still refining their offense,
of course,
because I don't think that he or the team wants him to have as many carries and hence take as many hits. So I think there's still some refining going on in terms of his game this season.
For what it's worth, the books that have MVP out there right now, in some order, it's Mahomes, Tua, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson. I don't think Hurts belongs in that group personally, with the way he has played this year. And I think Lamar's been better than Tua, especially against better competition. Tua has racked up those giant numbers against teams that aren't any good. It's Mahomes or Lamar are the only two choices right now. I'd give the slightest of edges to Jackson right now. But, hey, look, Patrick Mahomes, MVP a year ago, very easily. If Kansas City goes 14-3, Patrick Mahomes is probably winning that award again.
He's, like I said, he's the favorite.
Yeah, and he is right now, at most books, the favorite right now. All right, Vinny, before we let you go, I want to touch on two quick things here.
Okay.
World Series, the matchup we all expected.
No doubt.
Arizona and Texas. Because you guys do exactas. What were the prices on the exactas?
Ooh, that's a...
If we don't have that right now, we can effort that in the...
I have it.
Remember, this is Vinny's laptop right in front of him.
Of course it is.
All the papers.
So if you wanted the Diamondbacks defeating the Rangers...
Yeah.
80-1.
Okay, vice versa.
Rangers defeating the Diamondbacks 75-1.
Okay, so the two of the longest shots on the board right there.
Yeah.
I am amazed, Arizona, just the way that series went against Philadelphia. Dominated in the first two games. Down and looked out in game 4, comes back, win that game, and then really clearly the right side in both game 6 and game 7 to pull the upset. Texas road, sweet road. All 7 games won by the road team in the Houston, Texas series. But, Vinny, I really am stunned. Really am stunned Arizona is here. Texas, I could have seen the argument pre-playoffs. Their bats get hot. Their front line starting pitching pitches well. Leclerc is dominant at the end of the games. I could see it, and the AL felt wide open. Arizona is just totally outlandish that they're still playing right
now. Well, when you look at it, too, though, but so credit the Rangers, starting with Bochy. Because, again, they had a 3-game lead with about a week to go in the season.
Yeah, and blew it.
and they wound up, not only they lose the division, but they get to the playoffs and shake it off convincingly, okay? The D-backs get in because the Cubs lost out. Now, D-backs had to take care of their business, and they did it. But, look, we've seen it. Let's look at the NHL playoffs last year. The Panthers get in on the last day because the Penguins lost their last 2 games to, I believe it was the Blackhawks and the Blue Jackets. They were significant favorites. They wind up getting in the playoffs on the last day of the season. All they needed was 1 point, by the way, the Penguins. The Panthers get in on the last day of the season. They make it to the finals.
Right.
So, take down every good Eastern Conference team.
I beat the best regular season team of all time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, listen, that's why a lot of times when it gets to the playoffs, and you see folks do it, they take a chance with some futures, going in with some long shots because they're alive. If they get in, and we just cashed a ticket at 40-1 that was made in the middle of May, a 40-1 ticket for $1,000 to win the pennant, on the Rangers to win the pennant. Hey, good for that. So following it, giving teams a shot, and even going in, and you look at the exacta that Chris put up going into the playoffs. Hey, there's something to be said, Alex, about taking a shot with the playoffs, with the long shots.
So how has the handle been on this series going into the World
Good
Series?
so far. I mean, listen, everybody, a lot of people, and not everybody, but a lot of people will talk about, hey, what about this matchup? Is it going to be a Dodgers Red Sox kind of handle? Probably not, but it's still the World Series. And there's still prices. But I think what people realize, too, is when you're seeing it in game 1, these are 2 underdogs. These were the 2 long shots, respectively, in both leagues. They're now in the World Series. And you look at the Rangers, who opened $1.65 right now as we sit here at the South Point. They're $1.52. So the dogs are alive. People like that. They like the fact that they have a chance. Oh, and one of the things that Jeff pointed out about the equinox, right? Guess what? This game is being parlayed to everything else going on this week.
Tie it into some college football,
right?
And some NBA and some NHL on Saturday
absolutely.
for game 2.
Tonight's game is going to it. So it's I think the crossover play will certainly make for a good right, Alex. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's everybody's dream matchup. But from our side of the counter, we're not going to say no. We're not taking it.
Oh, I mean,
we're not booking it
for the counter. People are going to walk up there and bet it regardless.
Yeah.
Even if it was team 30 and 31 or 30 and 29 in baseball. See, I even added a team to the Major League Baseball.
By the way, 2 games tonight in college. Good two-way action. Virginia Tech. They're laying 3. laying 2.5 with Virginia Tech and taking 3 with Syracuse. So good two-way action there. But it's all about Georgia State.
Georgia State.
It is down to 1.5. So they took 2.5. They took 2. They're taking Georgia State tonight. So don't forget, we got a couple of college football games as well.
I did take 3 with the Qs. It's the only thing I did today on the college.
Right.
I don't like either of those teams, but Virginia Tech, even though they've looked a little bit better as the year's gone along, still. I'm not sure they should be a field goal against anyone in conference except for the real bottom of the ACC, which, hey, Syracuse could end up there by the end of it.
We don't know, right? Alex, you got to play tonight?
I don't have a play. I don't hate that one at all. I made that game a pick-em, so
right there.
I would be on that side, but I didn't touch it. Too many other great games. I've got hockey on. I've got this NFL game.
By the way, we got
11 hockey games tonight. Yep.
We've got a couple of basketball games, and we got a whole sheet of props. If you want individual or team props. Chrissy put out a bunch of props tonight on the NBA games.
Yes.
So
no James Harden, not allowed on the team plane.
There's some good chemistry.
Yeah. It's things not going great with Harden and the Sixers. He should have just taken that last offer the Clippers gave him. Just get him out of town, start over. But hey, whatever. Daryl Morey, he can do what he does. Vincenzo, thank you as always.
Good to be with both of you. Keep it up. Keep it
We
rolling.
will see you tomorrow, you and Chris tomorrow.
2 hours.
Friday starting at 2
2
o'clock.
hours.
Alex and I have at least another 35 minutes here. We got our plays on tonight's NFL game. Alex has some hockey as well.
Yep.
And we'll look at the first 2 nights of the NBA and tonight's matchup in Milwaukee between 2 of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And, of course, no stars for Phoenix except for KD. We'll get into that game a little bit later. Here on Sports by the Book, here at the South Point Studio.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rockin' dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show. Every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Happy to be with you as always. All right. NFL Week 8. How already? Week 8. 10 more to go after this. All right, Alex, let's get into it. Tonight's game. We discussed it a little bit with Vinny. Tampa Bay on the road at Buffalo tonight. Both of these teams going in the wrong direction the last few weeks. Tampa got that 3-1 start. Out of the bye, they have 2 home games against teams that are, well, Atlanta was not leading the division. Now they are. But Detroit was leading the division before getting stomped by Baltimore last week, and they still are leading the division. Detroit went to Tampa, inflicted their will 20-6. Tampa struggled to move the ball. And then last week, if it wasn't for a ghastly Desmond Ridder fumble at the 1-yard line when he couldn't even corral the snap, Atlanta was clearly the right side in that game. They probably should have more. They should have won that game by more than 3. And Atlanta averaged 6.3 yards per play, which you mentioned before. Tampa's been the bend but don't break defense in the league so far. So a little bit of alarming things on the Bucs side before we get to the alarming things on the Bills side here.
Yeah, no, as you mentioned, really good in the red zone, best team, but let me find this exact. Allows the 7th most yards per drive, but the 10th fewest points per drive. So things are going to
doesn't add up.
Yeah, things are going to start evening out a little bit, and I think it could be this game that it starts to happen. And I don't mind that underplay that Vinny just told us somebody made because we have seen the struggles with both of these offenses, and Tampa Bay really, 14 points a game in their last 4. The other interesting thing is, as you mentioned, Tampa Bay better on the road. The Bills obviously better at home, 3-0 at home. I don't know if the London game counted as a home game for them.
Technically it did. But
so throw that one out, 3-0 at home. So it should be an interesting one, but we can talk about the concerns of Buffalo.
So for me with Buffalo, this is what it's been during this run, other than a very small portion of that season 2 years ago where Allen was as good as anyone, and then the defense gave it away at the end against Kansas City, and then they changed the rule because the Bills complained, and then there were no overtime games last year. But looking at their games so far this year, I think part of the reason they look so good statistically is because they just destroyed. The 3 wins, other than the Giant win, were pummelings. They destroyed the Raiders, who I think are awful. They destroyed the Commanders, who can't block. And they destroyed Miami, where, you know what? I think you can ask genuine questions about how good the Miami Dolphins are at this point. You can say, you know what? Against the bad teams, the mediocre defenses, they're gonna put up a lot of points. But against good defenses,
right,
we've now seen the 3 best defenses they played this year, which was a healthy New England in week 2, Buffalo when they were healthy still in week 4, and Philadelphia when they were getting everyone back last week. Scored 20 points against Buffalo, but some of that was when the game was already decided. They only scored 3 points in the second half against New England, and then they scored 1 offensive touchdown on Sunday night against Philadelphia. So you want to ask the questions of how good Miami is, I have no problem with that. And that kind of leads me into what it is with the Bills. I think they're a mirage. Allen is incredibly talented, but he leads the league in turnovers since the beginning of last year, and it's not really close. He's 6 turnovers clear of the next guy, who's Dak Prescott. And against a team that forces turnovers. Now, I'm not saying that Buffalo is going to lose this game tonight, even though it wouldn't stun me if they do. But this feels like one of those games where Tampa's bending but don't breaking. They force 2 Allen turnovers, and then all of a sudden we look up in the fourth quarter and it's like, wait a second, how is this 16-13? Something like that tonight is what I expect out of this game.
So that is the key to the game, right? Can Buffalo take care of the ball? Can Josh Allen not turn the ball over? But as you mentioned with his turnovers this year, that's been an ongoing thing too. Since he's been in the league, he's had trouble there.
Yep.
As you mentioned also, so talented, one of the best. There's arguments that he was going to be better than Patrick Mahomes, but we've kind of found his weakness there. I think they get it together. I think this is a good spot for them, but it's another key to the game is getting on the board early. Vinny mentioned this, and it is so true. This team cannot play from behind. They've got to get the lead and then keep the lead, and then that's where we see the best Buffalo Bills team. I know we have Dawson Knox out too, but I'm not worried about that. Dalton
Kincaid
has been doing great. He's actually had more targets, so I think we're in store for a really good game.
I'm concerned about Buffalo's defense, too, and I made this point with Frank earlier, and we talked about this with Vinny. You lose your heartbeat. Matthew Milano had the severe leg injury suffered in London, knocking him out the rest of the year. You lose your number one quarter in Trey White. That's hard to overcome. I mean, Josh Norman, who hasn't played 3 games in the last 2 years, is now up playing tonight from the practice squad for Buffalo. There's only so many defensive injuries you can overcome, and they've been bottom 5. Even though the Giants didn't score in that game 2 weeks ago, you do EPA, Buffalo's defense has been bottom 6 the last 3 weeks, putting it all together. That's alarming for a team that's supposed to be known for his defense, even with all the injuries. That far of a drop is very much alarming. And also, too, just look at the last drive last week. You finally come all the way back. New England hands the game to you on a silver platter with that turnover that led to the Buffalo touchdown, go up 25-22. And you let Mac Jones go the length of the field on you in a minute 40? Can't happen if you're a good defense. Just can't.
So talking about their defense, 2 of those injured players have already been factored into the line.
Sure.
They've already been playing without them. On the flip side, how do you see Tampa Bay's offense actually scoring? We have a banged-up Baker Mayfield. We're missing somebody's. Godwin is out of the lineup.
So Godwin is gonna play.
Okay,
as
he
of
is.
this moment. He was questionable this week. Right now, the one concern, and you mentioned this before, Vita Vea, legitimate game time decision. We will not know that until Al and Chris are on the television right at the beginning of the game.
We're missing an offensive guard for
Yes,
Tampa Bay as well, right?
Tampa's been dealing with offensive line injuries all year. Yep. So look, it's Alex is just one of those where I'm lower. I've been lower on Buffalo than the market for honestly the last 2 years. I think that going into the year, and I've been proven not wrong, but definitely not right in the way I was saying it, that Cincinnati, I thought, and Buffalo were flipped. I thought that the market should have been treating Cincinnati like they've been treating Buffalo and vice versa. Cincinnati has not held up their end of the bargain so far, but the Bills haven't held up their end of the bargain so far either. So I'm just curious with both of those teams, and we'll get to Cincinnati and San Francisco in a second because I want your thoughts on that one as well. But a whole 10, I can't pass that up. If Buffalo smokes me, so be it. I can't pass a whole 10 with Tampa tonight. And that is available at some shops right now.
Oh, I don't blame you at all. So I teased the Bills down, of course. You know I love my teasers. -2.5. I tied them up with a couple favorites that are on Sunday. I think the Ravens and the Chiefs. And then I also teased the Bills with the under. So I bumped that up to 49. I agree. That's 9.5 is way too many. When I started to see it move so much from 8.5 up to 10, I thought that Baker Mayfield was definitely out. And I went and checked, and he's still questionable. We think he's going to play. So I think you're right. I think Bills are still a little bit overrated. And you made up a great point about Jacksonville and how are they moving up the power ratings because I've been keeping an eye on them. I think I have them 10th right now. Lions about 8th. And both of those teams are teams I'm watching to see when they make the move and they switch places with the Bills. But it's hard because Buffalo has had this reputation for a while now that we've all thought they are this good, dominant team. Like Vinny said, you don't want to overreact, so you try not to drop them too much. And then on the flip side, how much can we trust Jacksonville? How much can we trust Detroit, especially after game last week? But I did not overreact after that loss to the Ravens. They barely moved down as well, but still just want to see how they continue to do throughout the season.
Yeah, the Lions are interesting this week because the Lions are a big favorite on Monday night against the Raiders, and they should be because the Raiders still haven't scored more than 21 points. They were embarrassed last week by Tyson Bagent last week. They should be a big-time favorite. And you know what? This is kind of the bounce-back spot for Detroit where, all right, if you're a good team, if you're a team that is going to be in the running look, if Philadelphia loses a game or two, Detroit's schedule's really soft, be in the running for the number 1 seed in the NFC. You bounce back and you beat up a bad team, and it's still possible it's Hoyer. It looks like Garoppolo will be ready for Monday night. But if it's Hoyer or it's O'Connell, it's open season, at least it should be, for Detroit. All right, I want to get to San Francisco and Cincinnati before we venture on to the World Series, some hockey for you tonight, and the 2 NBA games on the slate. So we talked about it with Vinny earlier. Most of the market's gone back to 4. South Point and one other shop still at 3.5. So Purdy did participate in some drills today, even though he was put in the concussion protocol yesterday. So there's at least some sliver of hope that he will play. I'm not buying it. No player has been cleared in the same week that they've gone into protocol this year. I don't think Purdy's going to play, which leaves former 3rd overall pick Sam Darnold starting for San Francisco. Alex, for me, even before Purdy was ruled out earlier in the week, I liked Cincinnati at the 5.5. Now the big question is on my end, is Brock Purdy to Sam Darnold actually the full 2 points? I'm not 100% certain on that, but I still like Cincinnati even with the dip, even if it's a little bit more than I think Purdy to Darnold realistically is.
So I didn't play anything in this game yet, but I agree with you completely. I do not think that is a 2-point drop-off. And biggest reason is San Francisco is all about their system, and they have so many playmakers. I think Sam Darnold can fit right into that system just like Brock Purdy has. Clearly, in Shanahan's eyes, he's the better quarterback. He got the starting position, beat Sam Darnold out for it in the offseason, but plug Sam Darnold in and we'll see what he can do. I don't mind your play at all there with the Bengals. They are coming off a bye. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's tough. Can you see San Francisco losing 3 in a row? That's another tough part for me.
Well,
we've seen crazier things.
So here's the thing with San Francisco, where they should have beaten Cleveland. Like, I know that what happened in that game was a penalty-laden final drive for Cleveland that led to the field goal. You know, they got in range. Jake Moody's just got to make the kick.
Right.
And he didn't. And they lost that game because of that. It was a little alarming what we saw on Monday to me, because even though that game somehow only landed 39 points, Minnesota averaged 7 yards a play. And you can't let that happen when Minnesota doesn't have Justin Jefferson. And I know Jordan Addison looked great, and there was that bring the house at the end of the first half call from Steve Wilkes that turned into the Addison touchdown at the end of the half was a bad defensive play call. That's basically the only thing you can't let happen in that spot, and they let it happen. But I'm a little bit concerned about the way that A, Purdy has looked in these 2 games, and B, and again, it could very easily be a one-off for the defense. That was an alarming performance on Monday night, even though they only ended up allowing 22 points.
Oh, I had the under in that game, and I thought for sure it was done.
Living right.
Yes. So you're right. I mean, for what Kirk Cousins did without Justin Jefferson is pretty alarming for their defense. But what have we seen out of the Bengals defense?
No, so for Cincinnati on both sides,
right?
Let's take their offense first.
Okay.
Their offense, I know they beat Seattle 2 weeks ago, but Cincinnati's offense was at 4 yards a play. That is bad. That's genuinely bad. The week before, they beat Arizona by 2 touchdowns, 34 points. Burrow looked a lot better. And we talked about how he looked a lot better. 4.8 yards a play. That's really mediocre. And if you go through Cincinnati's season here so far, obviously that disaster in Nashville, they were at 4.1. Bad. Even the win against the Rams, they're at 4.2. They're not moving the ball in the same fashion. And look, it's part of the thing with Cincinnati this week. If the San Francisco defense shows up, I don't care if it's Darnold, Cincinnati could very easily have a problem moving the ball against San Francisco's defense if they show up. And those are bad offensive yards per play numbers, Alex.
This is a great game. Joe Burrow getting the rest he needs. We'll see how he looks. We should see a better Cincinnati offense. And then, we'll see what we get from San Francisco's defense.
One last NFL game I do want to bring up before we go to the hockey, Alex. The Steelers and the Jags, we mentioned Jacksonville before. Pittsburgh is an anomaly, at least by the numbers right now, and they're 4-2. This has gone from 1.5 to 2.5 on Jacksonville on the road in Pittsburgh. I'm just curious, what did you end up making this game for you? Because I thought that it's one of those where I saw the 1.5 and I'm like, wait a second, that's probably too low. But then when you start to go through it all, it makes sense why it opened where it did. And then it makes sense why the bettors have laid it with Jacksonville so far. Not quite the 3. I don't think it gets there because I think that's a take on Pittsburgh. But
So
2.5?
Steelers opened
No, Jacksonville 1.5.
open one. Now it's
And
moved
now
to 2.
1.5, 2.5.
2.5. Okay, so I made Jacksonville a 1-point favorite.
Okay.
So I was looking, but same as you, I like to have a 2-point difference to have a play. So I haven't played anything in that one, considering the Steelers for a contest, but I think Jacksonville is the right side there.
Jaguars 2.5 against Pittsburgh. Don't worry, we'll get all these games tomorrow on a Football Friday and on Sunday
Yes.
as well when we're here previewing the full slate on Sunday morning at 9 Pacific time. All right, we're going to take our final break. When we get back, Alex has some hockey for tonight. We'll look at the 2 NBA games and also our thoughts on the World Series, the one we all expected, Arizona and Texas. Huh? We'll tell you about it when we get back. Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza, plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book, over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book. Final segment for us here today. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Let's get to the other sports on the card tonight, and we'll also keep you up to date on if there's any movement on Tampa Bay and Buffalo. Again, right now, behind us, 9.5. Buffalo favored tonight against Tampa, 43 to total. There are some 10s in the market right now, which I will be grabbing. Said 10 on Tampa Bay tonight against the Buffalo Bills. All right. Hockey. Alex, this is a sport that, at least from my perspective, I'm very selective with hockey. It's usually just a few totals here and there for me. Sides, very limited unless if there's a price that I think is about 20 cents off. How do you usually handle your hockey betting before we get into your plays for tonight?
Yeah, I love to look for underdogs who I think should be favored in that game or have a very good chance. If I make it the other team just a small favorite, then I like that underdog. I also love totals. That's actually my favorite because if you bet the night before, overnight lines, you can find a 6. If you like that game over, find a 6. The next day you'll see there's only 6.5 out, and you already automatically have value there. Same thing goes for the under. So, yeah, I like to track. I have a total for each team on what their over-under number is, and then combine them to make my team total. And yeah, this is actually the first sport I started with, so I absolutely love hockey and betting hockey.
Let's go to tonight. Let's start with a good matchup in Raleigh tonight. The Seattle Kraken head east, taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. Alex, right now, total behind us hasn't moved all day. 6, juiced over, minus 125. Carolina, minus 190 favorite. Kraken plus 170 on the take.
Very good. I think that's one of the only sixes left. I saw a lot of 6.5s out there now.
Most of the market, there are a few 6.5s. There are a bunch of 6 over minus and a quarter.
Okay.
Yep.
So we've seen a little
Might
bit
as well
of
be
buyback
6.5.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we saw the regression, or we're seeing the regression from the Kraken that we thought we would. Year 2 last year, they definitely overachieved, but the other team on the other side, Carolina, they have actually started very slow. They're 3-4 this season, and they were a very good team last year. They're giving up way too many goals. In their last 3 games, they were outscored 16-8. Both of these goalies, Anderson for Carolina, goals against 4.14. First time these two played each other, the Kraken won 7-4. I think Carolina gets the win in this one, but I think it's a high scoring game again.
Total 6 right now. Best in the market, 6 over minus 20. So you're laying a price regardless, minus 125 on that over 6 behind us right now. Alex does like that over against with Carolina and Seattle. Starting about 20 minutes from now there in Raleigh. All right, let's go north of the border for this one before we get to another one that has actually tied into this game. Let's go to the first period. First period totals. Obviously, I think a lot of people like betting this point. Rangers and the Oilers tonight. Alex, you're looking first period total in this one.
Yes, and they are a lot of fun. I mean, you can win that bet within 20 minutes or lose it. But Rangers, Oilers over 1.5 first period. You do have to lay a little bit. I think it was minus 130. Both these teams fast. The Rangers are playing very good, and that kind of goes into my money line play. But I kind of track these as well and see how the teams are doing. Both of them are over 60%, going over 1.5 in the first period. So that's why I have a play on this one.
Rangers, again, no McDavid for Edmonton. Rangers, if you're just looking at a regular price here, it's gotten up 10 cents from the opener. $1.35 on New York, plus 115 on the take for Edmonton behind us. And a total that's actually gone down from 6.5 to 6. A rarity on the NHL card, usually a total bet down to 6. All right, Alex, you like the Rangers tonight. Who do you like them with?
I do like the Rangers because Shesterkin, their goalie, he is one of the best. But then on the other side, I like Minnesota. They have been playing very good, and I love their 2 goalies they have. Switch off, perfect amount of rest time there. The Flyers have been playing pretty good this year, but I think Minnesota is the right side. So they're a small favorite as well. I think they're minus 120 here.
Yes, minus 120 behind us. There are better prices in the market right now, as low as minus 110.
So I tied those 2 up for a little plus money. Then I have just one more, and that is an under in the first period.
Go ahead, and then that one you're not liking as much on the news on the news that Jake Ottinger is not going to get the start tonight in Dallas.
Thank you. You just told me that. Okay, I did bet Toronto Dallas under 1.5 in the first period. It was plus money. Jeff told me we will not have Jake Ottinger for Dallas. I still think, Dallas is a very good defensive team. Their team is a defensive-minded coach. I mean, their coach is a defensive-minded coach. But I mean, I would back off this now without Ottinger because Toronto has been on fire. So I think they could get 2 goals themselves in that one.
The only hockey thing I was close to tonight was the New York Islanders. But they've been bet up from the price that I liked across the board here. Liked them at about $1.20, $1.25. That $1.20 was not there for very long. It's mostly $1.30. You want to take it small, don't have a problem with that at home against Ottawa tonight. That would be the only thing I would look at. Really, again, not it's very sporadic on my hockey. So
see, and that's exactly how I feel with NBA.
Well, let's get to that
Treated
real quick.
the same way.
Sporadic on the NBA for me. I made my 4 bets for the first 2 days of the year, and now I'm done for a little bit. On the NBA side of things, Milwaukee and Philadelphia, both of their openers, they're the only 2 teams who haven't played yet. So
Right.
they're team 29 and team 30 getting into action. No James Harden tonight for Philadelphia. Not even allowed on the team plane. Not even allowed. He's out tonight. Milwaukee, a 6-point favorite. That hasn't moved behind us all day.
No.
And the total's been bet up from 225 to 227. Not much of a shock, Alex, that an NBA total getting bet up as we head towards tip-off, especially with these two teams.
I like Milwaukee here. I actually like both home teams. I'm surprised you're not jumping on the Lakers without Beal and Booker in. But, yeah, I like Milwaukee. It's Dame Lillard's Milwaukee debut, playing at home. As you mentioned, no James Harden. And if Joel Embiid beats them by himself, then I can live with that. But the Bucks, I mean, they are the favorite to win the championship right now for a good reason. This is a very talented team, and I think they put on quite a show here tonight, opening night for them.
First game for Dame Lillard in Milwaukee as well. Again, Philadelphia is one of these teams where I just wish they'd moved Harden already. It doesn't matter if you're getting dimes on a dollar at this point. Just get him out of town, get past it, and this thing's just lingered on a lot more than it has. And look, Philadelphia has a massive upgraded coach from last year to this year. Doc's now in the broadcast booth at ESPN. Nick Nurse comes south from Toronto down to Philadelphia. I think that is as big of a coaching upgrade as there was in the NBA this offseason. But with all this nonsense going on around Harden, there's going to be a lot of rumblings now that Joel Embiid's going to want out at some point this year. So I think the Sixers are just a mess, more likely to have to play in one of those 7-8 playing games than ending up with a 1 or 2 seed in the Eastern Conference now. I have no play on that game on the 6. And you like the Lakers, you mentioned it too, up to 6.5 now. This opened 1, but no Beal. We kind of knew that already. He was scratched 2 nights ago, but we figured he wasn't going to be ready yet. And no Devin Booker is out with a sore foot. So these new rules right away, we see 2 stars out. So, going to be a lot of Kevin Durant shots tonight. A lot of opportunities. 30.5 behind us on the point total for KD. That might not be a bad one, even though it's a high number, and especially early in the season when Durant is going to be at least limited minutes-wise.
How do you feel about LeBron James's limited minutes now?
So, it's a good question because the report came out and LeBron's going to be limited to about 31 minutes a game, and that's on the high end, going to be around 26 to 31.
Right. And
you know what? It makes sense for a guy who's just his NBA career can legally get a drink right now. Look, he's almost 40 years old. It makes sense.
Yes.
It makes sense. I feel bad for anyone who took an MVP future on him because you have no chance of winning that now. But it's not surprising to me. And I'm kind of surprised it hasn't happened sooner. And for the Lakers, just getting him healthy all the way through is so important because even though I think Denver's a horrible matchup for him. And if the Nuggets see them in the playoffs, it could be very similar to what we saw 2 nights ago and what we saw last year in May. But it makes sense to me on a minutes restriction. It doesn't really change how I look at the Lakers, though. It really doesn't.
Anthony Davis, we need more out of him. Do we get more tonight in this matchup?
AD was scoreless in the second half on Tuesday.
Yes.
Can't happen.
No.
If that happens, Lakers are going to be 43 wins, 44 wins. And that may be a high side, especially LeBron's minutes limitations for the rest of the year. AD tonight, 23.5 is what Chris and company have behind us. Usually AD follows up those stinkers with a big game. And again, this is a Phoenix team that their depth looked a little bit better than I expected on Tuesday night. I don't know if that had more to do with that I think Golden State is due to fall apart because of the age, and they only got older in the offseason by adding Chris Paul. But hey, look, Nurkic looked good. Okogie looked good the other night for Phoenix. For the Lakers, again, AD's going to have to show. I didn't bet this game. I had no interest in betting this game, even with the injuries for Phoenix. Would it shock me if KD has a huge night and all of a sudden Phoenix loses this game by 2 or wins the game outright? No, it's the NBA. Anything's possible on a nightly basis.
Right.
Except for the Wizards beating anyone any good this year. That's the only thing I'll say. They look really bad yesterday.
What kind of props do we have? I know you said points for each team.
So points, again, just behind us. And again, shop around for other props that you may be looking for. All points, the player points, so individual points scored. Durant's available 30.5. Nurkic at 13.5. Don't mind that over. Davis 23.5. LeBron 19.5. D'Angelo Russell 13.5. And Austin Reeves at 13.5. You actually see that on your screen right now if you're watching us. And then in the other game, 28.5 for Joel Embiid, 22.5 for Tyrese Maxey, 14.5 for Tobias Harris, 27.5 for Giannis. Brooke Lopez at 13.5, and then Chris Middleton. That I don't mind. 12.5 over. Don't need a lot in order to get there on Middleton. Just make 3 threes and then a bunch of 4 threes, and you only need one other point out of that, I should say.
I know a lot of people do very well with NBA props.
Yes, I just not my
Forte.
Not my thing. Not my thing. There are a lot of people who do very well. And same deal with the NFL props. During the pandemic year, the 2020, I experimented a little bit.
Right.
And had a little bit of success, but then really parsed it back after that year because those offensive numbers in 2020 were through the roof because there were no fans and it was easier to play offense that year. It's kind of come back to the pack a little bit now with offense down.
Definitely.
on the NFL props, kind of showing how I bet props usually, going against what a lot of sharps would do on the props. All right, before we go, Alex, World Series Game 1 tomorrow. Texas throws Nathan Eovaldi against Zach Allen. $1.65 opener here at the South Point for this one. Right now, South Point sitting at $1.52, so they have bet the Diamondbacks here, plus 152 on Arizona, now total 8. I don't have any plays on Game 1. Series price right now, Texas is minus 180, plus 160 on Arizona. I don't have anything here. I do think Texas finds a way to get this done series-wise, but Arizona's defied logic all postseason.
I know. You said it right there. I do think I'm leaning towards Bruce Bochy's team and what he's done with the Rangers, but I just can't believe that Arizona has made it this far. And you said it earlier, the 2 games in Philadelphia to win like that. So, in baseball, momentum is everything, and they look like they have it. So I'm interested in this first game, and I'm excited to actually watch this World Series with 2 underdogs going head-to-head. It does feel like it equals the matchup out a little bit, so should be a good one.
It'll be interesting to see. And again, people will point to the 2 home games and Philadelphia's big-time players not producing in those 2 games. Phillies lost that series in Game 4. They lost that series in Game 4. They needed to close that game out.
Yep.
Instead, Kimbrel blew it. Arizona was able to get it back to 2-2, even with the dominance of Wheeler in Game 5. Arizona's the right side. I said it earlier. Arizona's the right side in Game 6 and Game 7. Watching those games,
Oh, yeah.
they were clearly the better team in those 2 games. And with baseball, that kind of ridiculous stuff can happen, especially in the randomness of the postseason. All right, we'll refresh everyone before we go. I'm on Tampa plus 10 tonight. That's the only thing in pocket at the moment, Alex.
Tease the Bills and the
down,
under. Yep.
And the under. And then on hockey, one more time for everyone who may have just popped in at the end here.
All right, we've got the Kraken and Carolina over 6. Minnesota parlay with the Rangers. So Minnesota minus 120, Rangers minus 125. I tied those together. And then over in the Rangers-Oilers, over 1.5 in the first period.
There we go. So those are Alex plays on the ice tonight. Nothing on the ice for me because that's just not nothing stood out. I did lean to the Islanders, but the price, don't love it as much right now. And then on the NBA tonight, Alex, on the home teams tonight, the Bucks and the Lakers, a big old pass for me on both of those games. All right, we're back tomorrow. Alex is off tomorrow. Enjoy your off day.
Thank you. I'll be back
Vinny and Chris, and I would imagine Jimmy will pop on in tomorrow for our Football Friday 2-hour special at 2 p.m. Pacific time, right here wherever you're watching on Sports by the Book. And then, Alex, you're back with us Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Thursday when you can see Alex White on the desk with us here on Sports by the Book. We'll see you tomorrow, 2 o'clock, Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio.